All right, we got free college football picks, week 2, part number 2. I'm Tony T, our college football pick show here for today. We'll feature 14 games. We're going to get the 3:30 Eastern and 4 p.m. Eastern games for you. So we got 14 games. Before we get underway, guys, make sure you visit Tony'sPicks.com. The link's in the description. Get my best bets there. And like and subscribe to this channel. Lots of free picks from lots of cappers, guys. So let's go ahead and let's get this one started. All right, Cal and Auburn college football pick for Saturday. Cal 1-0 after their 31-13 home win to FCS UC Davis. The team finished 6-7 last year for head coach Justin Wilcox. Golden Bears returned 7 stars on offense, 8 to the defense. Cal put up 30 points per game in 2023, 4.4 yards per run. They threw for 226 yards a game, 6.7 yards per pass attempt. On defense, they allowed 34 points and 3.8 yards per rush. They gave up 282 yards passing with 7.7 yards per pass attempt. Fernando Martinez returns under center for his junior year. He completed 63% of his passes last year for 7.1 yards per pass attempt. He averaged 7.2 yards per pass attempt in the win against UC Davis last week with a touchdown. Auburn defeated Cal on the road last year 14-10. The Tigers are 1-0 in there after a 73-3 home win to FCS Alabama A&M. Auburn finished 6-7 a season ago for head coach Hugh Freeze. The team returns 9 starters on offense, 8 to the defense. They put up 25 points per game in 2023, nearly 5 yards per rush. Tigers threw for only 147 yards a game last year, 6.3 yards per pass attempt. On defense, they allowed 23 points a game, 4.5 yards per rush. They allowed 59% pass completion, 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Peyton Thorne returns for his senior season. Last year with Auburn, he completed 61% of his passes, 6.6 yards per pass attempt. He did produce a strong opener against his FCS opponent. California played Auburn tough last year. Thorne has struggled with downfield passing in his season last year and with Michigan State in 2022. This is an experienced Golden Bears team that showed the ability to get points on the board. Play here will be on Cal plus 13. Next one will be Jacksonville State. We're going to get to it right now. I've got the graphics set. Here we go. Jacksonville State and Louisville college football pick for action on Saturday. Jacksonville State 0-1 after their 55-27 home defeat to Coastal Carolina. Gamecocks put up 357 yards, 123 rushing for 4.1 yards per run. They had 3 turnovers, but just 1 of 10 on third down. Defensively, Jacksonville State allowed 552 yards to Chanticleers, 294 rushing, 5.2 yards per run, 258 yards passing, 12.9 yards per pass attempt. Logan Smothers hit 7 of 13 passes, 61 yards, only 4.7 yards per pass attempt. He rushed for 2.1 yards a carry. Louisville 1-0 after their 60-zip home win to FCS Austin Peay. The Cardinals finished 10-4 last year for head coach Jeff Brom. Team returns 7 starters on offense, 7 to the defense. They put up about 29 points per game last season with 4.4 yards per rush. Louisville completed 64% of their passes, 8 yards per pass attempt. On defense, the team held opponents at 23 points a game, 3.4 yards per rush. Cardinals held opposing quarterbacks at 57% completion rate, 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Texas Tech transfer Tyler Shaw is under center. He completed 60% of his passes last season, 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Shaw was productive last week against his FCS opponent. Poor offensive production really troubling for the Gamecocks. Third down conversions and sputtering the run game the concern. Louisville defended well last season and were run stoppers and defended the pass well. Play here will be Jacksonville State and Louisville under 58. Temple and Navy college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Temple 0-1 after their 51-3 road defeat at Oklahoma. The Owls put up 197 yards, 1.9 yards per rush. They went 4 of 13 on third down and had 4 turnovers. Forrest Brock 12 of 25 passing for 128 yards, 2 interceptions. They surrendered 378 yards to the Sooners with 220 rushing yards for 6.1 yards per rush. Navy 1-0 after their 49-21 home win to FCS Bucknell. The team finished 5-7 last year. Head coach Brian Newberry will have 7 starters back on offense and on defense. The midshipmen put up only 17 points per game in 2023, 4.2 yards per rush. They completed 50% of their passes for 6.1 yards per pass attempt. On defense, they allowed 24 points a game, 3.7 yards per rush. They did allow a 67% completion rate, 8.2 yards per pass attempt. Blake Horvath returns under center after seeing action in 4 games last year. He averaged 4.9 yards per rush in 2023, completed 50% of his passes. Last week, he completed 2 touchdown passes with a pick. He rushed for 4.7 yards a carry. The Owls defense will struggle to contain this Navy option offense. They showed improvement last year and gave a good showing against Bucknell last week. The midshipmen had struggles to defend the pass last year. Temple have over 6 yards, gave up over 6 yards per rush to the Sooners last week, and in a tough spot to face this offensive system for the following week. Played Temple and Navy over 43. Baylor and Utah college football pick for action on Saturday. Baylor 1-0 after their 45-3 home win to FCS Tarleton State. The team finished 3-9 last year for head coach Dave Aranga, who enters his 5th year, and he's on the hot seat. The Bears returned 9 starters on offense, 9 to the defense. Baylor put up only 22 points per game last year, 3 yards per rush. They threw for 276 yards per game, 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Defensively, they allowed 36 points a game, 5.1 yards per rush. They allowed 66% completion rate, 8.9 yards per pass attempt. Why, for Aranga defense, that is pretty bad. Daquan Finn transfers in from Toledo to start a quarterback. Last year, he completed 63% of his passes with 8.4 yards per pass attempt. He rushed for 563 yards, 4.6 yards per rush. Now Utah 1-0 after their 49-0 home win to FCS Southern Utah. The Utes finished 8-5 in 2023 for head coach Kyle Whittingham. Returning our 6 starters on offense, 9 to the defense. The team put up only 22 points per game last year with 4.2 yards per rush. They threw for only 165 yards, 6.4 yards per pass attempt. On defense, the Utes allowed 20 points per game, 3.1 yards per rush. They held opposing quarterbacks at 59% passing rate, 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Utah inexperienced at the running back position and offensive line. Cameron Rising returns under center after an injury cost him to miss last season. In 2 full seasons, he completed 64% of his passes, 7.8 yards per pass attempt. He was efficient in the win against Southern Utah. Line and running back inexperience a concern for the Utes. Finn is a dual-threat quarterback that can keep the Bears competitive here. 18 starters returned for Baylor. Player will be Baylor plus 14.5. South Carolina and Kentucky college football pick. This one here on Saturday. South Carolina 1-0 after their 23-19 home win against Old Dominion. Gamecocks gained only 288 yards, 174 rushing, 3 yards per carry. They did have a +3 turnover margin, but converted only 5 of 18 on 3rd down. Defensively, they allowed the Monarchs 305 yards, 108 rushing for 3.2 yards per rush. Lenore Sellers, a redshirt freshman, hit 10 of 23 passes for 114 yards. He did rush for 68 yards and a touchdown. Kentucky 1-0 after their 31-0 home win against Southern Miss. The Wildcats gained 317 yards, 148 rushing for 6.2 yards per carry. They limited the Golden Eagles to 131 yards with 5 rushing yards. The game was called in the 3rd quarter due to lightning. Brock Vandegrift, 12 of 18 passes for 169 yards, 9.4 yards per pass attempt. Georgia transfer had 3 touchdown throws and a pick. It's a tough environment for this South Carolina redshirt freshman. His inaccurate passing against Old Dominion a concern. They couldn't crack 300 yards of offense against ODU. Kentucky stuffed the Golden Eagles' ground attack. Play Kentucky -10. Get to Charlotte and North Carolina here in just a second. Here it is. Charlotte and North Carolina college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Charlotte 0-1 after the 30-7 home defeat to James Madison. The 49ers gained 324 offensive yards, 131 rushing, 4.2 yards per run. They had 3 turnovers, went 7 of 19 on 3rd down. On defense, Charlotte allowed 417 yards to the Dukes, 194 rushing for 4.7 yards per rush. The 49ers allowed 12.2 yards per pass attempt. Max Brown, a Florida transfer, completed 22 of 45 passes for 193 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He averaged only 4.3 yards per pass attempt. North Carolina 1-0 after their 19-17 road win at Minnesota. The Tar Heels gained 252 yards, 147 rushing for 3.6 yards a carry. They limited the Golden Gophers to 244 yards with 79 rushing yards, 2.4 yards per carry. Quarterback Max Johnson lost for the season. Connor Harrell saw limited work, hit 2 of 4 for 34 yards and 8.2 yards per pass attempt. He showed accuracy in his freshman season and mop-up duty and played in their bowl game last year. Good defensive effort by the Tar Heels in their opener. Charlotte pass defense a concern, allowing those big plays. The run defense is a concern as well. Harrow has the game experience against West Carolina in their bowl game last year, playing North Carolina minus 22.5. Northern Illinois and Notre Dame college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Northern Illinois 1-0 after their 54-15 home win to FCS Western Illinois. The Huskies finished at 7-6 in 2023 for head coach Thomas Hammock, entering his 6th season. They returned 8 starters on offense and defense. NIU averaged 26 points a game last year, 5.3 yards per rush. They completed only 57% of their passes with 6.6 yards per pass attempt. Defensively, the Huskies held opponents to 21 points per game, 4.3 yards per rush. Opponents completed only 56% of their passes with 6.3 yards per pass attempt. They do return their top rushers, top receivers, along with 4 from the offensive line. Ethan Hampton is the starting quarterback. He has seen limited action the past 3 seasons in a backup role. He has a career 58% completion rate, 5.9 yards per pass attempt. He had a strong performance in the opener against FCS opponents. Notre Dame 1-0 after their 23-13 road win at Texas A&M. Fighting Irish put up 356 yards, 198 rushing for 5.8 yards per run. They had a +2 turnover margin. On defense, Notre Dame held the Aggies to 246 yards, 100 passing yards, 3.3 yards per pass attempt. Riley Leonard hit 18 of 30 for 158 yards, 5.3 yards per pass attempt. He rushed for 63 yards. Notre Dame's physicality on the offensive line will open plays in the running game as they average 5.8 yards per rush on an SEC defense on the road. Hampton's efficient work for the Huskies in the opener, encouraging to their chances of getting some points up on the board. Play Northern Illinois and Notre Dame over 45. Eastern Michigan and Washington college football pick for Saturday. Eastern Michigan 1-0 after their 28-14 road win at UMass. The Eagles gained 375 yards, 134 rushing for 3.8 yards per carry. They allowed 329 yards to the Minutemen with 3.7 yards per rush, only 5.9 yards per pass attempt. Cole Snyder hit 17 of 29 for 241 yards and a touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown. Washington 1-0 after their 35-3 home win to FCS Weber State. Washington finished 14-1 last year. Jed Fish is in his first season with the school and will have 1 starter back on offense for the defense. The team put up 36 points per game last year with 4.3 yards per rush. The passing game produced 344 yards per game, 9 yards per pass attempt. On defense, the Huskies allowed 25 points per game, 4.7 yards per rush. Opponents completed 59% of their passes, 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Mississippi State transfer Will Rogers will start at quarterback. The past 3 seasons, he has a career 69% completion rate, 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Had a good debut last week against their FCS opponent. Cole Snyder, the transfer from Buffalo, will be effective for the Eagles. Lots of transfers here came in over this Huskies team that's inexperienced on both sides of the football. Rogers has experience as a quarterback, but not very efficient. Play Eastern Michigan plus 25. UMass and Toledo college football pick for Saturday. UMass 0-1 after their 28-14 home defeat to Eastern Michigan. The Minutemen gained 329 yards, 152 rushing for 3.7 yards per rush. On defense, they allowed 375 yards to the Eagles with 3.8 yards per run, but 241 passing yards, 8.6 yards per pass attempt. Tyson Omanchan hit 20 of 30 for 177 yards with only 5.9 yards per pass attempt. He took 6 sacks. Toledo now 1-0. A 49-10 home win to FCS Duquesne. The Rockets finished at 11-3 last season for head coach Jason Candle. The team returns 4 starters on offense and defense. They put up 29 points per game last season, 5.4 yards per rush, 28 yards passing, 7.9 yards per pass attempt. On defense, the Rockets held opponents at 21 points per game, 4 yards per rush. They held opponents at 54% completions, 6.3 yards per pass attempt. Toledo must replace their starting quarterback and all 5 on the offensive line. They are experienced in the receiver position. Junior Tucker Gleason will start at quarterback. He saw limited action the past 3 seasons with a career 49% completion rate, 7.2 yards per pass attempt. He produced good performance in his opener against an FCS school. The Minutemen dropped a 14-point decision at Eastern Michigan. Their pass defense in the opener is troubling. Toledo is a better MAC team. Gleason experienced in the program, plus as well as having his playmakers in the passing game. The play will be Toledo minus 18.5. Iowa State and Iowa college football pick. This one goes off on Saturday. Iowa State 1-0 after their 21-3 home win to FCS North Dakota. The Cyclones finished at 7-6 last year for head coach Matt Campbell. They put up 26 points per game in 2023 with 4 yards per rush, 256 passing yards, 8.5 yards per pass attempt. On defense, they held the opponents at 24 points, 3.9 yards per rush, and only 56% completion rate, 6.8 yards per pass attempt. They returned 10 starters on offense, 9 on defense. Quarterback Rocco Beck returns at quarterback. Last season, he completed 63% of his passes, 8.5 yards per pass attempt. He put up strong numbers in his opener against FCS North Dakota. The Hawkeyes are 1-0 after their 40-0 home win to FCS Illinois State. Iowa finished at 10-4 last season for head coach Kirk Ferentz. The Hawkeyes returns 10 starters on offense, 8 to the defense. They put up 15 points per game with 3.4 yards per rush. The passing game was inaccurate and inefficient. Defensively, they held opponents at 15 points per game, 3.1 yards per run. Opponents completed only 56% of their passes against them, 5.1 yards per pass attempt. Cade McNamara returns this season after being injured in 2023. He had a career 61% completion percentage with 7.4 yards per pass attempt. The numbers were way down in his 5 appearances last year. He had a good debut against FCS opponent. A healthy McNamara and the change in offensive coordinator are the key here. Hawkeyes are experienced and have performed well over the years in their home stadium. Play Iowa -3. Michigan State and Maryland college football pick for action on Saturday. Michigan State is 1-0 after their 16-10 home win to FAU. Spartans put up 293 offensive yards, 179 rushing for 4.8 yards per rush. They turned it over 3 times. On defense, they allowed 248 yards to the Owls with 132 rushing for 2.8 yards per rush. Aiden Childs hit 10 of 24 passes for 114 yards and 2 interceptions. Maryland 1-0 after their 50-7 home win to Connecticut. The Terrapins gained 629 yards, 248 rushing for 5.4 yards per rush. They forced 3 turnovers, and on defense, they allowed 310 yards to the Huskies with 88 rushing for 2.9 yards per run. Billy Edwards, 20 of 27 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terrapins' offensive production was impressive. Michigan State young quarterback ineffectiveness against FU not encouraging for this road spot here. Neither were the 3 turnovers. Play Maryland -9.5. UTSA and Texas State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UTSA improved to 1-0 after their 28-16 home win to Kennesaw State. Roadrunners put up 416 yards, 76 rushing for 2.2 yards a carry. They went only 4 of 14 on third down. On defense, they held the Owls to 253 yards with 51 rushing for 1.3 yards a carry. Owen McCown completed 28 of 38 passes for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns. Texas State 1-0 after their 34-27 home win to FCS Lamar. The Bobcats went 8-5 last year for head coach G.J. Kinney. They returned at 7 starters on offense. For the defense, they put up 33 points a game last year. They gained 440 yards offensively per game with 4.2 yards per rush. The passing game produced 66% completion rate, 8 yards per pass attempt. Offensively, they allowed 33 points a game with 397 yards. Teams rushed for 4.1 yards per game against them with 242 passing yards, 7.6 yards per pass attempt. James Madison transfer Jordan McLeod will start at quarterback. Last year, he completed 68% of his passes, 9 yards per pass attempt. He passed for 35 touchdowns, 10 picks. Had a huge day last week against his FCS opponent. Quarterback situation is sound with the Bobcats beyond McLeod. McCown was effective in his opener for the Roadrunners. There'll be lots of passing with points put up in this game. The defense is a question mark here for Texas State. Play UTSA and Texas State over 64. Middle Tennessee State and Ole Miss college football pick. This one goes off on Saturday. Middle Tennessee State 1-0 after their 32-25 home win to FCS Tennessee Tech. The Blue Raiders finished at 4-8 last year. Head coach Derek Mason in his first season with the team will have 4 players returning on offense, 3 to the defense. They put up only 23 points per game last year, 3.6 yards per rush. They completed 66% of their pass attempts, 7.2 yards per pass attempt. On defense, Middle Tennessee State allowed 29 points per game, 3.9 yards per pass attempt. They allowed 254 passing yards, 7 yards per pass attempt. Nicholas Vitadio returns at quarterback for his 4th year at the program. Last season, he completed 67% of his passes, 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Last week, he completed 57% of his passes, 6 yards per pass attempt against his FCS opponent. Ole Miss 1-0 after their 76-0 home win to FCS Furman. The Rebels went 11-2 in 2024 for Lane Kiffin. Returning our 10 starters on offense, 10 to the defense. They put up 32 points per game last season, 4.3 yards per rush. Quarterback play was effective. On defense, the Rebels held opponents to 24 points a game, 4.1 yards per rush. Opponents completed 61% of their passes against them, 7.4 yards per pass attempt. Jackson Dart returns under center. Last year, he completed 65% of his passes with 9.4 yards per pass attempt. He came off a huge performance in the opener against his FCS opponent last week. Tough spot for this inexperienced Blue Raiders team facing one of the projected best offensive teams in the nation. Giving up 25 points to an FCS team last week for Middle Tennessee State, not encouraging. Play Ole Miss minus 41.5. Marshall and Virginia Tech college football pick Saturday. Marshall 1-0 after their 45-3 home win to FCS Stony Brook. The Thundering Herd finished at 6-7 last season. Charles Huff will have 5 starters back on offense, 5 to the defense. They put up only 23 points per game last season, 3.7 yards per rush. The passing game generated only 6.8 yards per attempt. On defense, the Thundering Herd allowed 30 points per game, 4.5 yards per run. They held opposing quarterbacks at 59% completions, 7 yards per pass attempt. Senior quarterback Stone Earl starts at quarterback as he transferred in from North Texas. He saw limited work the past 2 seasons, completing 56% of his passes, 6.6 yards per pass attempt, averaging 5.3 yards per rush. He had 2 touchdown passes in the win against an FCS opponent, but averaged only 6.1 yards per pass attempt. Virginia Tech 0-1 after their 27-24 road defeat to Vandy. The Hokies gained 271 yards with 181 rushing for 3.8 yards per rush. On defense, they allowed 397 yards to the Commodores with 322 passing yards, 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Kyron Jones hit 22 of 33 for 322 yards with a touchdown and pick. The Hokies' pass defense an issue. Jones is probably shaking off that leg injury, which actually was reported as cramping. The running back, Tootin, is questionable. The Hokies got their offense going in the second half. Play Marshall and Virginia Tech over 52. All right, that was our college football pick show, guys. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have free college football picks all season long, free picks from all the major sports. And remember to click the link in the description to Tony'sPicks.com and get my best bets. I'm Tony T. We'll talk to you later.